Could you hear me okay? This is Mayor Dixon. Yes.
Oh,
okay. You can hear
yes,
me
I
okay?
hear. I do.
Okay, we're running a little, just a smidge late at 7:03. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We've done our tech check. Right at this point in time, we're one trustee short. With that, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Oh, she's online? Okay, we have a full crew then. Sorry, I didn't realize she was online. Okay, moving on to item number 2. Do we have any corrections to our agenda? No corrections to the agenda.
May I ask if there's anyone to speak about the vendor's fee tonight?
It doesn't look like anybody here is here to speak about it or online, Catherine. Is that something that you'd be able to address for us?
I don't know if it's appropriate for me to do that, so I'm just wondering if we should table it.
You can certainly recuse yourself, or Sunday will be recused as well. I think we should probably table it.
You want to table it?
Yeah, sorry about that, but
No worries.
Okay. So we would be tabling item 6A. Okay, do I have a motion on the agenda along those lines?
The agenda with the removal of number 6 business items. A, you pass chamber vendor fees.
I have a second.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda, tabling item 6A to UPass chamber vendor fees. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Did we get a vote from Catherine online?
I
Aye. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Be sure you signal bow on their votes on how you want. Okay. Moving on to our consent agenda, our meeting minutes from our October 3rd meeting. Are there any corrections? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes from October 3rd, 2023. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Moving on to section 4, or alpha, mayor and trustee reports. Trustees, anything to report?
Nope.
I will report that on our the grant we received for broadband, the estimated bill that was sent to the state was over 120,000. And so, yeah, if that still has to go through all the approvals at the state, and we have to be involved with the approvals and whatnot. But that is going to be a significant milestone, and us possibly getting some more broadband capability here in town. There's still several more steps. I always want to say that because once we get the 2 documents done, and then if they're favorable, then we can proceed on to the next step of trying to do engineering. And then if that's favorable, then we can move on to trying to do equipment. So, but yeah, the grant we received was worth over 120K. That was nice. We'll also say we're meeting with FEMA tomorrow. Look over some of our damage assessments that we have and try to talk through more details with them. So more to come on that as well. And moving on to staff reports.
Oh, before before we do. Fire evaluation exercise. That was outstanding.
Yes,
A lot of people learned a lot from that, a lot of our first responders, and it was just an amazing coordinated event.
yeah, it went really well. It went really, really well. I was very happy with it.
We did receive a little bit of feedback from that fire evacuation exercise on some additional improvements that we can make to our signage that would help the first responders and the evac crew navigate the community a little bit better. So some really, really good suggestions there. And of course, identified a couple of communications dead spots, but outside of that, everything worked really, really well. The only negative feedback that I have received on that entire event was that, darn it, I wish I would have participated. So that was great. I suspect that our community was such a good host that we will be invited to host again.
All right, excellent. Thanks for bringing that up. Okay, staff reports.
Just a couple of updates on our on my end. We did staff reports for Public Works and the Marshal's office last meeting. So this one will be more of administrative updates. Of course, we've got our comprehensive roads plan. It's near completion. I really hope to have a draft at your next meeting. That project now is kind of tied up in the software portion of it. Wilson and Company has got some new software and they're working out some kinks on it. So there have been some delays there, but I am really looking forward to closing out that project and having all that information that we can use to fuel our future projects and decision making. Of course, this emergency declaration with El Paso County has been quite time intensive. It's tricky to navigate. Want to thank Mayor Dixon for his assistance in helping organize a lot of that information that has come through. The mag chloride treatment is complete through Public Works. It was a wild success. That makeshift pick that they used, that they built to help aid in that application, seemed like it worked really, really well. And actually one of the items that was included in their budgetary request would be a attachment to the grader that would actually do that on a larger scale. So it's wider. It would make that process much more efficient. They are currently doing equipment maintenance, getting everything ready for snow removal season. On this end of the house, thanks to all your help and support through that budget amendment process. We are working on those budget proposals with town staff and the committees. And we expect to have a final budget for consideration for adoption on at your December meeting. Again, that was delayed intentionally, that process, to be able to incorporate information that we learned as the result of the November election. So that process was delayed intentionally so that we're not producing two budgets. We are still continuing to look at areas for process improvement. We have some upcoming trainings as well as meetings with our auditor and some software trainings. The intent of those is to really simplify your budget and make it easier to manage, as well as provide good, useful reporting documents from. Before we get too far into that, we want to make sure that we're not going to create a headache unintentionally for the auditor next year. So having his involvement with that and recommendations will be really helpful. We are really eager to begin working and get our dumpster blind installed. That is going to need to go through some level of planning application before approval. But we still have not yet received any quotes or bids on that project. So I know that the Parks, Rec and Trails Committee is working on that and we're on standby. The pool's been winterized for the season. The UTA students that you might remember, we were able to get in on a university technical assistance project. They'll be working with the Parks, Rec and Trails Committee to develop plans based on the public input. The Parks, Rec and Trails Committee has a phenomenal stakeholder engagement process identified. The UTA will come in and be able to compile all those recommendations and feedback from the community engagement into some pretty attractive documents that will be able to help us get a little bit further along in that process. And it will position us to be able to seek some grant funding to help offset any potential gifts that the town is given for that. Of course, the emergency evacuation exercise, really want to thank all the citizens that participate in that and our partnering organizations. We're still continuing to work to update our continuity of operations plan. And then we've been providing quite a bit of planning support to accomplish our land use code implementation. Of course, we've talked about the several forms in our processes that need to be updated. And Julia is currently working through a backlog of applications. And she has been able to solicit the assistance, select a consultant to assist with updating the zoning map. So that should be coming really, really soon. We will be working on the CDBG phase 2 RFP draft documents. Need to get with the Parks, Rec and Trails Committee to identify the priorities for that project, as that project was only nearly fully funded. So there's opportunities where we're going to need to look at how to scale that back if needed based on the project. In your application, we've done some in your packet, you'll find a memo that we'll get into a little bit later. There was some homework that was required to identify whether or not we should update a community wildfire protection plan, and I'll go into that a little bit more in detail later on in the meeting. Our co-swap application for the 2024 and 2025 projects with Mile High Youth Corps has been submitted, and we are beginning the process of nuisance tree mitigation priority planning for 2024. So we'll be working with the state forest, or our local forester from the State Forest Service, to identify what's going to have the most public impact and where we should focus our efforts in 2024 first. I believe that it fit on one page this time, Bo. Is that true? Right.
Before I start my report, I want to let you know that I have Jesse Stroop on Zoom now. I don't know if it's possible to unamend the agenda and re-include item 6A. I believe he's on to represent that item.
What was he on for item 6A for the chamber?
Jesse, can you speak to item 6A on the agenda when it's time for that? Are you on for that topic?
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
Okay, since we've removed it, do we need to open that back up and reapprove it? Okay. Sounds like we need to open that back up and reapprove the agenda then with the addition of item 6A.
You know, a motion to include once again business item 6A, UPass chamber members fees.
We'll go ahead and second. It's been moved and seconded that we re-include item 6 alpha into our agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, item 6 alpha is back in.
Thank you. So to report, I've got my regular duties. I added core requests since that seems to be now part of the routine activities. It's happening more and more. We had a little bit of turnover on STRs. I got one license reissued and there's one application pending. We were talking about records and archiving and whatnot during the work session. I feel really good about that. That's been a big project, and I think, you know, I'm probably 25% of the way there if I had to guess. So was I'll have more to report on this in the future, but I've been delighted what we have and what didn't burn. Some of it's really cool, and I'd love to show you out in the hall here. I've got it somewhat organized. So 5 core requests this year. Some of these were doozies. It was a lot in one request. And it sometimes involves the legal team and IT, and it can be pretty involved pretty quickly. Shelly Scott Nash has been awesome. She's been great to work with. I'm really happy with the progress on the site. We're getting a lot more fresh content. A lot of the stuff that was on there was just dated and it just needed a facelift. She's also helping with making sure that whatever we do add from this point forward will be ADA compliant as part of our accessibility, just so we're not digging our hole deeper as we go along. And then I forgot to put on here, but the fee schedule is on the home stretch. That's right around the corner. And I'd like to approve that with the budget for 24 and have that come together as a package. So this is our year-to-date statement. I ran it on the 15th because that was Saturday. Let me make it more seeable. Here we go. And here's the contribution. This was at the time just under 40% of our general fund balance. So this coupled with the 38 that was there. I have to check that number and see if I'm still close. I've been very cautious not to go over. I heard you when you said up to, and I'm sure that we're back at that. So, but some good progress. I feel good about what's happening here in the income earned. That's only been a couple of months. So I think it's going in the right direction. We are capturing the target 5% rate that we were hoping for. So the first week I moved that in there, I checked it like every day, but it feels good to see it season and grow for the town. So that's all I have.
Comment, we need to make sure that as you're going through these processes, especially on our website, we get those documented well. Because 5 years from now, who knows what we're going to be seeing, and we just need all that stuff well documented.
I agree. Thank you for that.
You're speaking to the how-tos.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay, was that it?
That was it for me. I believe the next item is 6A.
No, actually, our next item is item 5, public comment. I don't think we have anyone here in town hall. Do we have anyone on Zoom?
So,
Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to item 6 alpha now, the Ute Pass Chamber vendor fees.
Hello, Jesse Stroop, 10770 Florence Avenue. I'm working with the city of Yukon. No, I'm working with the Ute Pass Chamber. I just finished with City of Yukon. I'm working with the Ute Pass Chamber and Green Box and Church in the Wildwood on doing a holiday event December 2nd, which would include a arts and crafts fair at the Joyland Church. I understand in talking to vendors, we're having a hard time getting vendors because of some confusion around vendor licenses and some troubles at Bronc Day and at the Green Box Farm Stand. So I approached the town manager to ask her or to advise me on how to best work on this. And she advised that having everyone get a vendor's license was important, but possibly we could ask the board to waive the fees on that. So I'm on tonight to request that we waive those vendor fees.
Okay, Jesse, was the issue with just getting the town licensing, or You know, because we have business license, we have food truck licensing, and then we also were requesting, I believe, for Bronc Day that everyone demonstrate that they had gotten their sales tax licensing, so for lack of a better term.
Well, and in your question, you just really identified the confusion, because there's a little bit of confusion around all of that. I think some of them didn't have their state income tax license, but really didn't want to pay the application fee, because that cuts into what they're making in a short day.
Yeah, so the state sales tax licensing, we cannot control. They've got to have that if they're providing whatever it is they're providing, the you know, the items for sale, or can't remember. I remember I read that one time and I'm blanking on exactly what it said, but if you're selling something, then yeah, you're supposed to have a sales tax license. Becky, do you know any?
I think
you-
typically how the process works is that the state wants to ensure that those tax revenues are collected.
Mhm.
People, if they're vendors, they typically are either doing so under a business that they have licensed, or they're able to claim that earned or that earned income as part of their tax filings for the year. They're responsible for that. Exactly.
Yeah.
So what we like to have happen is that they still fill out the form so that we're able to verify that
Right.
they have done that. That form gives us the ability to look into it, the trail of breadcrumbs, if you will, to verify. Outside of that, you know, on the fee schedule, administratively, we don't have the ability to waive those fees. So that's why they're coming to you tonight.
Okay, so that's just basically for the business fees for the town.
Mhm.
Does that include food, mobile food vendors?
So with the way that we have it set up right now, and I believe that this is the mobile food vendor license, and we have the peddler and solicitor vendor license. And that's the one that we're discussing, is the peddler and solicitor license. I think that probably in our 2024 fee schedule, we'll look at calling this something that generates less confusion.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, really the intent of those is to level the playing field between full-time or businesses here that have to pay a business license annually, and those who might want to conduct business in town.
Okay. So we're being asked just to waive the business license portion.
The vendor fee, the vendor license portion of it
Okay.
for the Christmas event. And that's to help those who probably aren't going to make a whole lot of money, still want to participate and sell their.
And again, we don't have to verify anything.
Nope.
So we can just waive this.
Mhm.
Yeah, we can waive the business license fee. It like I say, it's confusing because we got mobile food trucks, we got business licenses, and you know, there's the state requirements that we're not a part of, but everyone, we really try to verify that they've met the state sales tax. It's mainly sales
We don't
tax.
have to. We can just come down and get this.
Well, again, the state piece, we don't have a dog in that fight. And there are some exceptions on the state sales tax. It's just when you get into the mobile food vendors, and then the one that's called peddler now, we can waive those fees.
Yeah, and there's certain things that would trigger us to want to verify that if it's somebody that's doing business on a regular basis in town. If we're seeing it come up over and over and over again, that might trigger us to want to look into it. But if it's something that's, you know, somebody selling home woven handicrafts at the Christmas fair, it's probably not going to trigger us to investigate it.
Okay, so the only one we're being asked to waive is basically the peddler,
Yeah, we can, for the purposes of this, we can call it the vendor fee.
the vendor fee. And Jesse, I was curious, are there going to be food trucks there?
Yes, we are planning on having at least one food truck.
Are they asking to waive that fee as well?
I would ask you to, yes.
Okay, so it's so it's the food truck and the vendor. Waive those fees.
And how does this agenda item relate to the chamber?
The chamber is a partnering group in the event. So Catherine asked me, well, there was no one else who could show up tonight from the chamber to request this, so I volunteered.
I'm going to recuse myself from the vote on this because of my relationship with the chamber, but I will ask for consideration in future that if we have a special event license in place or permit in place, that we consider the vendor fees waived.
I think that that's a great suggestion, and we can modify the special event application to include a checkbox for that specific purpose.
I like that idea.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I like that idea. Thank you.
Motion?
Yeah, so we'll basically be moving to waive the vendor and the food truck town fees.
Yep. So motion to,
Waive.
yeah, well, motion to waive the vendor's fee and the gut truck fee, food truck.
For the one-time event.
For the
For the
one-time
one-time
event
event.
on December 2nd, is that correct?
Yeah.
2023.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so we have one recusal, and so all in favor, say aye. Aye. We have 3 ayes.
Recusals.
We had 2 recusals, so motion carries.
Catherine, was that an official recusal?
She said so earlier.
Mhm.
Yeah, she did say so earlier, so,
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm
Okay.
recusing myself.
Thank you.
okay, thank you. Okay, that motion carries. Moving on to item 6B, ordinance 2023-05 regarding alcohol.
So this would be ordinance amending the Town of Great Mountain Falls Municipal Code regarding section 7-82 and 10-165 relating to possession and consumption of alcoholic beverages in town parks and facilities. This would effectively allow people to consume alcohol in the town parks. Certainly, we did look at what made sense and would requested that any glass containers be not included in this, just to help keep our parks clean. Folks wishing to do so would still be required to abide by any other state and local laws regarding to possession and consumption of alcoholic beverages. So such as being in the public rights of ways on sidewalks. And we do have the ability with our facility use policies to create policies to support this based on public behavior if need be, but I don't anticipate that we'll have too many issues.
Trustees, questions, comments? Personally, I think folks will be like to be able to have a can of beer while they're fishing. There's no additional trustees, questions or comments. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve ordinance number 2023-05.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We approve ordinance 2023-05 regarding alcohol, and all in favor say aye.
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 And BoT,
Five ayes.
if you could correct the spelling of the courier. Mm-hmm.
And my screen blank. Bear with me. Okay. I had a unanimous on that. So I will be moving on to item 6C, ordinance 2023-06 for off-highway vehicles.
Right, so this would be an ordinance adding a new article to Article 4 to Chapter 8 of the Town of Green Mountain Falls Municipal Code to regulate the operation of off-highway vehicles, mainly allowing the use of off-highway vehicles as described in this ordinance. We did talk about having required equipment and conditions, and I believe that you all have had an opportunity to discuss that in work session. In addition to that, there are a couple of grammatical errors that will be corrected in this prior to incorporation into your municipal code. Any discussion here?
Trustees, questions, comments?
I'm gonna recuse myself from the vote as I use an OHV in my work, so.
Okay. I'm anxious to try to get it going, and I'll be glad to be the test case. I'll ride my quad out here if I can. If there's no questions, comments, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to approve 2023-06.
I'll second. It's been moved and seconded that we approve ordinance 2023-06 regarding OHVs. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Had 4 ayes and 1 recusal. Okay, so motion carries. Item 6 Delta GovPro election contract.
This is a contract between the town and Judy Egbert, who is GovPro Consulting. I used her in the past for some consulting work, and she was excellent to work with in every way. This is for the sake of the upcoming election in 2024. And down here, where's the Exhibit A? Here's all the details. She's basically available except to be on site during the election. So, which I'm okay with if all the coaching ahead of that's in place. And
Funding covered. The cost.
The cost of this would actually be to get this contract in place for 2024. So if you approve the contract tonight, we'll build it into your budget for 2024.
Okay, trustees, questions, comments?
So. Our end state, the end game is to tag on to, county elections in 2024, so we're not spending, anywhere from $5,000 to $6,500 per consultant, or any election for that matter. Do we want to tailor this so we can train our clerk and town staff so that
This is, yeah, so if we were to coordinate the election with the county, we need to look into, and, outside of there being a Tabor issue in this election, I believe that the cost of getting us prepared in that issue on the ballot for a coordinated election with the county in 2026 would be possible. We'll need to look into the timeline on that, but she can certainly get it on the ballot as long as we've got enough time to do so, come up with that ballot language, etc. Outside of that, if we were to coordinate the election with the county, they handle all of this. There'd still be a town portion of cost associated with a coordinated election. It's mostly the ballot mailings and the production, the creation and production of those paper ballots that go out for our local residents. But our cost would probably be reduced by at least $4,500 each election cycle to do so. And then the county election process, they have a robust team that helps them coordinate that election.
Possibility that by elections next May 8th or whenever we scheduled for our terms, that we could possibly get ballots out to make it for a vote that would tag along with the county elections in 2024, November 2024. And special election before we pass it, having sometime.
I think that's a good question. So I think the fastest that this process could happen would be, we would still hold our local municipal election here for our regular next election cycle coming up in April. And then on that ballot would be, is it an initiative? I'm not sure about that, but that question would be posed to the voter. And then pending that outcome, we could merge with the county for future elections. Right. So this gets me through the next upcoming election, which I think has to happen. I don't think we have a way out of that. And, you know, of course, if I find out otherwise, we'll be, you know, back here doing that. But as I understand it, that's the deal, where that election is happening. Now what's on that ballot is, you know, up to us. We can put that. So you're suggesting like a special election that just gets that one item?
No, if we're, I think what Nick is saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, that we get the request on the April election, whether or not we have election for officials or not, we put that on the ballot. We go ahead and hold the election so that we can get things in place for 2026.
We could kill two birds.
Yep.
Get that squared away for you.
I think that's a good idea.
Okey-doke.
Now, do we have to amend anything on this? Or
I don't think so.
scope and,
Yeah, because it's gonna be, it sounds to me like it's just gonna be getting us through this next election, even if we just have that one question on the ballot.
So we're assuming that the consultant will
Yeah.
help out. With
What one question are you talking about?
Excuse me, this is trustees only.
I couldn't hear what you were saying.
Excuse me, this is trustees only. This is not public comment period.
We're assuming that we want to have this conversation with the consultant to assist us. Put this on to an April ballot.
Yep.
Election.
Absolutely.
Now, is that something we want to confirm with the consultant before voting right now?
I think this includes everything that would be needed to go through the process to actually hold the election.
Because then if it not, then it goes into, I think, $80 an hour plus, you know. travel
Yeah.
costs or whatever.
Yep.
Okay. Everybody's in agreement that that we want to get this on the April ballot.
Yeah, I think so. And so we basically ought to have a motion to approve this contract. And then go from there.
Yeah, and to that point, trustee Donzello, my past experience with her, she was really kind and honest with her billing. I think it came up a bit back of what the agreed amount was, and she definitely provided quite a bit more than was in the scope of service. So I felt really good about working with her in that way.
So would we have two motions?
No,
To
just
approve
one.
this
Just one.
Consultant to help us?
No, we just need this contract.
So I'll make a motion on agenda item 6D, the GovPro election contract, to accept it.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We accept the GovPro election contract. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Didn't hear any. Denied, okay. Do we need to do another tech check? And it probably ought to be from one of us up here. Because if you're running off of that microphone back there, then they'll pick you up and they won't pick us up. So we'll just kind of do another quick tech check. Is everyone hearing me?
Yes.
We're hearing you. We're just not hearing Catherine very well when she responds.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that the folks in Zoom land were able to hear the board.
I can hear just fine.
Okay, good.
And I did vote aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 6E as in Edward, the CWPP grant application.
So we are requesting your support or approval of a grant application. This has not yet been drafted as it's quite a lengthy process, and wanted to make sure that you were on board prior to the work being put into it. We did a little bit so this would actually be a grant application through the U.S. Forest Service. It's Community Wildfire Defense Grant. It does require a 10% match for the update of CWPPs. We did do quite a bit of background work on this. And with it really comes from the recent wildfire events in Colorado, inspiring a lot more funding for mitigation projects coming from the state and federal sources. Most of that funding requires that projects be identified in a community wildfire protection plan that is recent within the past 10 years. Our most recent CWPP was done in 2007, and there is a link there to that document where it can be accessed. Thankfully, we've been able to participate in mitigation projects through partnerships with other organizations. But because of the lack of identified projects in the plans that we currently have, the old plan, there's no way of knowing how effective those projects can be, and no way to really tell if that work that's being done will have an impact on fire behavior. We're also battling terrain issues, and the cost of mitigation is continuing to increase due to those geological features that exist here within the corridor. Mitigating risk is one aspect of the project, but also the plan update should include strategies that can help the town identify egress opportunities to increase public safety, as well as opportunities to build resiliency into our infrastructure. We have done, as I said, quite a bit of homework. We've met with various community stakeholders to include the OEMs from Teller and El Paso County. Go back up, please. Too fast. The Green Mountain Falls Fire Department, Colorado State Forest Service, National Forest Service, and the Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee. We did talk about how to make this grant most competitive and what makes sense, and looking at our geographic boundaries. The current CWPP was, as I said, done for the entire corridor. So we kind of looked at, does it make sense to just do this plan for the town of Green Mountain Falls? Or should we include the entire corridor? And really the scale of projects that are going to need to be included are probably corridor wide. So having our partners in those other organizations and the rest of that community is quite important. So we decided that we wanted to maintain that corridor boundary. If we were awarded this grant, we would need to have a contractor selection committee that would be comprised of each of those stakeholders. We also reached out to other municipalities to kind of get an idea of the project scope, what their cost estimates were coming in from them. And we looked at opportunities for multi-jurisdictional projects. Included in this was the city of Woodland Park. A lot of times we've kind of been included in all man's land and no man's land in other planning documents. If you look at the Greater Woodland Park Community Wildfire Protection Plan, it does include Green Mountain Falls, but it doesn't include us as a priority for a project area because we're not their priority. So that's where that comes from. We are included in Teller counties because we do have a good portion of land in Teller County. They're getting ready to embark upon a CWPP update for Teller County as well. But again, it's not going to contain that level of specificity that we need in order to build successful projects and pursue additional funding for that. So that's why the need to do one here locally is. In talking to other municipalities that have similar features to ours, their projects were coming in at about $120,000 to $150,000 for a project of this scope. The past project was done by a committee rather than a consulting firm. And so there's some aspects of a CWPP that probably need to be expanded on. As I said, I expect that it's going to be a pretty competitive project. We have gotten a lot of support and sample applications that our partnering communities have submitted. So we know what a successful grant application does look like, but this is going to require, as I said, a 10% match. I do feel as though there is some opportunity to do some fundraising around this, potentially a beer garden in the park. Another great opportunity to do some additional outreach as well. But also, knowing that we have partnering organizations in there, there's a potential for there to be some willingness to pitch in as well. That being said, the maximum match that could come from the town in this, we're estimating to be $15,000. And it really would position us quite well for continued grant submission applications. We have been very lucky in that we've been able to kind of skate by this requirement of projects, and that's because the agencies that have applied for funding on our behalf have been able to meet that requirement, such as CUSP. That might not be the case for future funding years. In addition to that, the Mile High Youth Corps, the co-swap grants there, those are not projects that require a town match. So that's where we've been able to be successful with those. We do anticipate that this is going to require a little bit of staff time to be accomplished, but we feel as though the work going forward is going to really hinge upon, and the commitment of this time is worth it.
Question. In discussions I've had with like the chief and the emergency ops folks under fire safety, the priorities usually come out as evacuation, the after effects, the recovery, and then removal of excess fuels. Does this include, will this include anything on recovery? Because I thought I heard one of our staff say we really don't have very much on recovery.
It should, and we can build that into the scope of work that we want to have included in our CWPP if we make that be a priority that's a deliverable of this project, that it makes some suggestions on how we can build in the best possible recovery. We can certainly make sure that that's part of the project.
Yeah, that seems to be a recurring theme, especially among the emergency ops folks where they're saying 90% of it's recovery. So, okay.
Yeah, I think it's great. We need a CWPP in 2007. That's no bueno. And this will help us certainly with other grants in the future, whether it's infrastructure for a giant siren or whatever. JT with Office of Emergency Management Tellers kind of rocking out there with that. It's like that optic array that can sense fire from 70 miles away, 30, 50, 60 miles away. I mean, it's pretty impressive stuff that he's not paying for.
Right.
We can get stuff like that. They can look all the way down the corridor and through Chiquita, Cascade and up on Mount Dewey or something.
I'll be honest, one of the reasons I was kind of chasing the broadband was so if we could get the equipment in to have basically IR sensors.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what I don't know if you were there that day when we were, yeah, you were.
I think I was, yeah.
That was an amazing piece of equipment that
Yep.
he was somewhat demonstrating to us how it works. And you'll be able to you
Yep.
know, geolocate wherever it's coming from, and I think that's, that's gonna help out big time. The other day, and really honestly, could look all the way down this corridor and in Woodland Park too, so we may be able to partner if it's up and around that bowl of,
Yeah.
on the county side.
But if we had like I say, if we had the coverage just in our valley with enough IR sensors, it'd be cool if we could have something that the chief could have that
It
would
just be a-
flag him and he gets up his phone and it comes up with a map. Says, hey, you got a hot spot here. It's probably Todd Dixon with his charcoal grill, but
Yeah,
anyway.
or maybe it's not fire. But, again, that tower apparatus was quite impressive. And I think we would have overlapping sectors, on the top of that mountain over there, looking into Woodland Park, the Keller, and all the way down the corridor. Yeah, it'd be brilliant. But that's what we need to do. We need to get the CWPP squared away. Great, and that happy stuff.
So trustees, any other questions, comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Yeah, I'll motion to approve, the CWPP grant application